name is Mark Cieliebak, and with me is my co-chair, Martin Volk from University of Zurich. We will start now sharing the screen. I hope you can see the slides now. Okay. Would you like to start to introduce a little bit what we have done?
Yes, I can do that. Welcome everybody to Zurich. Unfortunately, only virtually. We have been organizing Swiss Text and Convents together for the first time. Swiss Text, a few words about the history. Mark at the University of Applied Sciences in Winterthur has organized this for the last 3-4 years with growing number of attendees. Last time more than 200 people joined. And Convents has been a conference that has been going on for more than 25 years, every other year in the German-speaking countries. And we thought that would be a nice initiative to join these two conferences. And we wanted to invite you all to the beautiful city of Zurich and to celebrate this joint conference with you at the University of Zurich main building. But unfortunately, because of Corona, this is not possible. So you will have to live with a virtual city tour. And our conference is taking place now in Zoom and supported by Slack. And we hope that still you find it a worthwhile experience. So now Mark is going to tell you a bit about the number of participants, where the participants are from, and a little bit more context from our conference.
Yeah, we always share at the beginning of the introduction, who are you? And afterwards we tell you a little bit about ourselves as well. And then we start with the first keynote later on. So this year, as Martin already said, the online conference made a little bit a drop in number of participants. So last year we had more than 220 participants. This year we are 132, which is still okay for an online conference, I think. And we have seen that there was a significant shift from say an even split between companies, industry and academia towards academia. And there might be two reasons. One is that we joined with a Convents conference, which is very much more science oriented. And on the other hand, maybe also the industry was not so interested because it's not a live conference. So the interaction with participants is slightly reduced, which is probably the interest of companies to join. But we will try to make up for that. We have several changes in the program, which hopefully give you also the chance to interact with other people, even virtually. So where do you come from? We have a lot of research institutions who submitted papers. We had in total 36 scientific submissions, out of which we accepted 15. And we have a lot of research institutions joining today, basically mostly from Switzerland and Germany, but also from other countries, Austria and also United Kingdom, Italy, and so on. On the other hand, we have companies and organizations joining. We had in total 25 submissions for the applied and demo track, out of which we accepted, that's not true, we had 34 submissions and we accepted 25 of them. So there was the acceptance rate was pretty high because here in the applied track, we want to have presentations of say projects which show how to use NLP, and we don't have such high barriers on what kind of projects we are looking for. One tradition in Swiss Text is that we always give a first presentation or first registration award. This is due to the first conference that we organized, and we were so keen to have at least one participant out of our group. That we said the first one who registered gets some Swiss chocolate, and we want to keep up with that tradition. This year it is Fatma Özdemir-Zech from Novartis Pharma. Fatma, I hope you are here, but only virtually, so I cannot hand over the chocolate to you right now. So what we will do is we will send it to you via post, and hopefully you get us your post address. We will send you an email after the conference. And the same applies to our speakers and the organizers of the workshops and helpers. We usually give them some wine from our universities, but this is also not possible. And sending wine to other countries is very difficult in these days. So we decided to send every speaker, that includes all the speakers of today and tomorrow, including some box of chocolate. And you will receive an email asking for your address, and then you will get the chocolate hopefully in the next weeks. If you want to post about the conference, you can do that on Twitter or whatever social media channel you like, LinkedIn or whatever. You can use SwissTex Convents or the joint hashtag if you want. Now, in the registration process, we asked for the topics you are interested in NLP. And we want to know what is hot in the community of SwissTex and Convents. And we got more than 200 mentions. And out of these, we checked which are most prominent. So this is word embeddings, information extraction, text classification, NLG, speech to text, and multi or cross-lingual models. Now these are all the prominent ones except for the top 3. And now I give you some 2 seconds to think about what might be the most prominent topics that were submitted. So one is summarization. And it's cool because we had yesterday already a shared task on summarization. Second one is machine translation. And the most prominent topic, which we really didn't expect, is still sentiment analysis. So we thought sentiment analysis would have been something like in the 2015-16, but apparently it's still a very interesting topic, especially for our community. Okay. Now, what has happened since last year in the NLP community? There has been a lot of new models, a lot of new technologies, and we usually present here 3 or 4 milestones, new topics that we think you should be aware of and that we think are pretty breakthroughs or very interesting and cool to know, especially for you as our community. First one, last year we presented language models, and they are still a hot topic. Last year I presented Elmo and GPT-2 and BERT, and I would say this is still one of the most exciting topics that happens, and there are new models which increase in size. Transformers are everywhere now, and I would like to mention especially one model that has impressed me in terms of size and results. That's the new GPT-3 model. So the GPT-2 model that OpenAI published last year had something like 1.5 billion parameters. And they said when they published it, they took it away from the net again and said, well, this is too large, too good to be published, at least for some time. And then in December, they released the entire model again. Before they released smaller versions of that. But now, a couple of weeks ago, they released GPT-3, a new model which has increased dramatically in size. Now they have up to 175 billion parameters in the model, and they show that they can do new tasks without any supervision, just by reading unsupervised text. Now, how does it work? So they digested a huge amount of text, basically 300 billion tokens from the internet, from books and something and similar stuff. And then they allow the model to answer questions like this. So you just write, translate English to French, and then you give some examples, sea otter is l'outre de mer. And after giving some examples, you give the prompt where you say, now I want to have the translation of cheese. And the model recognizes what the task is from the first line, translate English to French. And from the given examples, it knows that it has to answer fromage. And this is completely unsupervised. So you don't have any training data on machine translation. You just have a huge amount of text that is digested by the model. And they go even one step further and say, well, this is few-shot learning. And they usually take something like 64 examples in the paper. But they go one step further and they say, okay, we do one-shot learning. It is sufficient to give us one example of translation or what you're looking for. And then we can do the translation automatically. And this doesn't only apply to translation. They do lots of different tasks like sentence analysis, question answering, spelling correction, arithmetic operations like what is 3 + 5 or other tasks. And then they go even one step further and skip the example. Oh, now this is wrong. This line should be at the third example, the plush giraffe. So this example is also skipped. This is a zero-shot learning or zero-shot translation. So you just write the first line, translate English to French, and you give the prompt cheese, and the model should output fromage. And they show that this works, surprisingly. So depending on the number of parameters that they have, they show that they can reach, with this approach, without any supervised training examples, state-of-the-art fine-tuned models. They can even beat them. So what you see here on the x-axis is the number of parameters, up to 175 billion. And on the y-axis, the accuracy, and the dashed line is the best state-of-the-art fine-tuned model with supervised training data. For the task here is trivia question answering. And then they show that they can reach with few or one-shot learning, even the state-of-the-art. And with a zero-shot learning without any examples, they can get close to the state-of-the-art. I think that's pretty impressive. And even the paper is pretty impressive. They have something like 31 authors, and the paper itself is over 70 pages. So this is already a small book with lots of examples for each domain that they are working on, examples and nice analysis. So it's really worth reading. Something else that I would like to mention is a new collection of results in NLP called Papers with Code. And it's pretty cool if you want to jump into a topic, get an overview of what has been done and what is the state of the art. So for various topics, and they have something like more than 100 topics even in NLP, they provide a leaderboard for different data sets. So you can select, for example, speech recognition as the topic you're interested in, and then you get an overview of different data sets and evaluation tasks that have been run. And you see on the left-hand side, this small chart shows already the trend in terms of how good are the results, how does it look like. And if you click on one of these results, so the first one, for example, then you get the best papers and the best implementations for this task, for this particular data set. And then you can look at the code and even see how, if you can download it and run it on your own machine. Pretty cool if you want to jump into one new topic that you're not really expert in. The last thing I would like to mention is a local activity that we have started. That's the Swiss Association for Natural Language Processing. We have founded this association in February, and the goal is that we try to extend the reach of the Swiss Text Conference, which is a one-time event in the year over the entire year, and bring together industry and academia to come up with new projects and ideas. So what we are going to do is Swiss NLP will take over the Swiss Text Conference from the ZHAW, from my university, and be the owner and chair of this conference in the future. We will organize matchmaking events where you can come into small groups and meet other people who are interested in the same topic, and then try to come up with innovation projects that are probably funded by the government. We are going to run a new project for speech-to-text for Swiss German. So we will hear a little bit about that in the afternoon when we make a first annotation session that came out of this initiative already. And we will send you on a regular basis some NLP news, like I just mentioned, things that you shouldn't miss, and it should be very interesting for you. So you do that. I hand over back again to Martin.
Yeah, I would like to introduce to you the conference team, people who have organized this event for you. As I mentioned in the beginning, Mark and his team are very experienced already in organizing conferences, and we joined them. We're very grateful for the opportunity to learn from you how to organize a conference like this. So the main organizers are actually Manuela Hörlimann from Mark's team and Sarah Ebling from my team, who were supported by a number of people from ZHAW and the University of Zurich in organizing this conference. And we would like to briefly just to introduce the activities that our two teams are doing in terms of research. So our institute, our department of computational linguistics at the University of Zurich consists of about 30 people. See them here. And I have condensed our activities to 6 points. We are doing work on text mining with a focus on text mining in the biomedical literature, and there are a number of papers here at this conference from this group. Then we have a small group working on accessibility, so language technology for the handicapped, focusing on sign language and on easy language text simplification. We do some work on digital humanities, working with medieval documents, building large corpora. We have a small group on that. We are involved with a number of partners there. And so that is a fascinating dimension to not only work with current texts, but also with texts that are 500 years old. We have a group in phonetics led by Volk, Stefan Schmid. They are dealing with all kinds of issues on spoken language. And in particular, they're also interested in speaker identification. And we're very pleased that sentiment analysis is still such a hot topic. We have Manfred Klenner and his team doing work on sentiment analysis. And we've been working on machine translation nowadays under the leadership of Rico Senrich and his team in our department. And that has a long tradition, starting from machine translation on film and TV subtitles, all the way to machine translation for context usage, going beyond the sentence boundary. And you will have noticed some of that in our publications. Now back to Mark.
Okay, so I also briefly introduce our group. We are pretty much smaller than your group, Martin. We are only 10 people at the moment working on text analytics and dialogue systems. And we are, well, also working on text classification sentiment analysis. So maybe there is also a bias, since our groups are very well represented, that sentiment analysis popped up that much. In addition, we work on speech to text. We are developing at the moment, together with a spin-off of our university, a product for automatic transcription of interviews, which we want to give to, for example, journalists to transcribe their interviews, or to researchers automatically, and then do some post-editing easily. As I said, we are also interested in Swiss German, so we are trying to push this initiative of the newly found Swiss NLP and support it. We also participated yesterday or in the shared task on Swiss German speech to text for Bernese dialects. And I'm proud to say that we won the competition, but honestly, there were only 3 participants, so that is maybe not that much a breakthrough. We are working on dialogue systems and chatbots, and also in particular on the evaluation of dialogue systems. So how can you automatically evaluate them? And finally, we are building in a project, a European project, solutions for natural language interfaces databases, where we want to ask a natural question like, how many movies did Brad Pitt make? And find the answer in the database and automatically generate the reply. Okay, now these were the Zurich University of Applied Sciences and the University of Zurich. We are still trying to figure out how to distinguish these two easily, because they are very similar in name. The conference itself has been co-organized by the Swiss Alliance for Data Intensive Services, which are supporting us, and we have support by the Inner Swiss Foundation agency, the Swiss Innovation Agency. And we have a couple of sponsors, and we are really grateful that they kept with us even during the online conference. They are mentioned here at the bottom of the page. Now, yesterday we had already a workshop and tutorial day. So we had different workshops, presentations from the shared tasks that were run within the conference, and also a tutorial. And the meeting of the European Language Grid. And this is how the conference site looks like. This is a photo from yesterday. So it's not as exciting as last year, where we met and had some coffee breaks and stuff like that. We also had already our share of technical difficulties. So for instance, at some time yesterday, we had one participant whose affiliation looked somewhat weird, whose name, and we decided to throw him out because of such a message here. And it turned out that, well, it says, do you want to remove first name, last name, and affiliation? After removing him, he cannot participate again in the meeting. And it turned out that it was one of the speakers, actually. So we had to figure out how to reroute him and use a proxy via Skype to let someone else share his screens and join the person. I hope we had already enough share of these technical difficulties yesterday. We learned a lot, and try to avoid them today. So hopefully we will come through. Now I would like to hand over to Manuela. As Martin already said, Manuela and Sarah have been the main organizers. They've invested a lot of time in the last weeks to organize everything. And Manuela will now give you some information on the program of today, and also on the technical setup of the conference.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome also from my side to the conference. Mark, could you move to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the program, we are right now in the middle of the welcome message, which will be followed by a keynote by Anja Belz from the University of Brighton. After that, we will have a coffee break, including online networking. So this will take place in a dedicated Zoom room. So the coffee break will be in a Zoom room, and we will assign you into random groups of people. So to simulate a bit the feeling when you walk through the conference lobby and you just walk up to some people standing at the table and you chat with them. Then after that, there will be the first parallel session with 3 tracks, followed by a lunch break. In the afternoon, we will start with the already announced crowdsourcing session for Swiss German speech to text. And then after that, there is a virtual city tour to bring you a bit of Zurich, even if you're distributed all over the country or even the continent. And then there is another parallel session after that. And in the afternoon, the coffee break will be simply a break that you can take away from your screens without any networking. And then in the evening at 4 p.m., we have the NLP and Society session, which will take up some very interesting questions around ethics and NLP research, and which will feature Michele Loy from the Digital Society Initiative and Emily Bender from the University of Washington as panelists. We will finish off the day with a virtual apéro, so it would be great if you could stick around for that. We will share some more information on how that is going to work later on. And then just a few bits of information. As you've heard, we've had some technical difficulties, and here are some tips on what to do to hopefully avoid them. Just some information on Slack. We have an announcements channel where we share the links for the upcoming sessions 10 minutes before, so that's a good place to check. We also have a tech support channel, so if you're not in a specific Zoom session, this is where you can get help if you need any information or technical support. And then we also have a general channel, which is a bit like the conference lobby. We have a coffee corner for off-topic discussions, and you can also create custom channels, conversation groups, and also one-to-one conversations to chat with people. In Zoom, what's good to know is that the password for the sessions is always the same. So you can reuse that, and we would ask you to join the sessions a bit early, so that's around 5 to 10 minutes before, to avoid interrupting and to just make sure that you can connect fine. And it's more like if you're a speaker, it's 10 to 15 minutes early. And if you're in a Zoom session and you have some difficulties, you can use the chat to get the host's attention, and they will assist you. Sorry, yes, there is one more piece of information which regards naming. So please, in both tools, in Zoom and in Slack, use your first name and last name followed by your affiliation, so we can know who is around. This will help us also, avoid any problems of what we had yesterday. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Manuela. I think it's probably the first time in SwissText that the opening is finished in time, exactly. So we are now going to start with the first keynote by Anja Belz. Anja, are you there? I hope.
Good morning. Yes, I am.
Oh, that's great. Good morning. So let me briefly introduce you to the audience. Anja is professor for computer science at Brighton University in the United Kingdom. She has a lot of publications on NLP, of course, and that's the reason why she's here. But she also has a lot of topics which go in the direction of image processing. So I would say you are more on the boundary between these two areas, at least if you look at the list of publications. And she has been organizer of several shared tasks since many years. And in the keynote, she's going to share some of her experiences about these organizations of shared tasks and how it evolved over the time, in particular in the last 13 years. So we have pre-recorded the video and will play it now to avoid any technical difficulties. Now I have to ask, can we play the video? So my screen sharing will end and probably you will not hear and see me. And so maybe just to explain how it works, we will now play the video, which has been pre-recorded by Anja. And afterwards, there will be a short Q&A session with the entire audience, where you can ask questions like in a normal talk, and Anja will answer them. And then there will be a coffee break. And after the coffee break, there will be more time to talk to Anja. We will have one of the 3 parallel tracks will be that she's just available for additional questions. This is an experience from the last year's conferences, that there are always some people who are very interested to go into more detail, and that they would like to talk maybe for a couple of minutes or even a half an hour to the keynote speaker, whereas the most of the audience might want to do something else and attend different topics. So we will have 2 kind of question answering sessions. One is immediately after the talk with the entire audience, and then in the parallel tracks there will be one for a smaller group who really want to go into it. Anja, is that okay for you to start the video now?
Yes, that sounds absolutely great. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, cool.